what does it really mean to follow Jesus, right? What does true discipleship look like that Jesus calls to follow him? The type of people that are candidates to be disciples of Jesus. And we discovered that Jesus calls ordinary people to extraordinary lives. Now that we've discovered that Jesus actually calls us, everyday, ordinary, broken, messed up people, now that we've discovered this is the type of person Jesus calls, because we know that Jesus calls each and every one of us, but if we are to discover what true discipleship really looks like, we have to know, how do we answer the call? How do I become a disciple of Jesus? And once I am a disciple, how do I live that out? How do I follow him? And in this passage that I'm about to read you, Jesus, he gives two very clear, very explicit instructions as to how to follow him. Jesus is giving us a bit of a short how-to course here. This is Jesus' course in how to be a disciple 101. And in Luke chapter 9, verse 23, Jesus says this. It says, "Then Jesus said to them all, 'Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self?'" How do we follow Jesus? And here in this passage, again, Jesus gives clear instructions. And he gives two clear steps. And this morning, I want to focus on the first of those two steps, which is deny yourself. And you see, this principle of self-denial, of deny yourself, on the surface, it seems very counterintuitive, right? Especially in the culture that we live in today. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but the culture that we live in today is all about self-esteem, right? Our culture today is all about self-acceptance. It's really all about self-fulfillment. The message that our culture gives us is do whatever you can. Do whatever you need to do in order to make yourself feel good. Buy whatever you need to buy. Use whoever you need to use. Say whatever you need to say. Sleep with whoever you need to sleep with. Do whatever drug you need to do in order to make yourself feel good. Make yourself feel good at all costs. That's what our culture tells us. And so in a culture that is all about self-fulfillment, how are we supposed to follow Jesus' command of self-denial? How do we deny ourselves in the culture that we live in today? And that's not where the confusion stops with this passage, by the way. I mean, how counterintuitive is it for Jesus to say, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will save it? Because my understanding is that if I lose my life, I die. I don't save my life. How does it work that if I lose my life, I save my life, and if I save my life, I lose it? What? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Or how about this? This idea that if you gain the whole world, you will forfeit or lose yourself. Well, hold on a minute. My understanding is that if I gain the whole world, well, I am part of the world, and so how do I lose myself if I've gained the whole world? Then I wouldn't have the whole... It's confusing. It's counterintuitive on the surface. However, what we have to understand about this passage, what we have to understand about what Jesus is saying here, is that in this passage, Jesus is actually referring to two different selves and two different lives. This phrase, deny yourself, inherently suggests that there are two different versions of yourself involved, right? Deny yourself means that there is the self that is doing the denying, deny yourself. And then there is the self that is being denied, right? Deny yourself. There's two selves going on here. And for our purposes, we will call the self that is being denied, we will call this the old self. Everybody say the old self. Now, the old self, the self that is being denied in this circumstance, the old self is all about self-fulfillment, right? The old self lives to be successful or popular or the most well-liked, right? The old self finds peace and joy and contentment in their stuff, right? Or in their earthly relationships. The old self loves human approval and honor and comfort more than anything else. The old self loves what we refer to in Christianity, the things of this world, the physical things that are around us that are temporary. The old self loves those things more than God. The old self loves those things more than Jesus. That is the old self, the self that is being denied. Now, the other self that Jesus refers to here, the self that is doing the denying, we refer to this as the new self. And this is the self, this is the identity that we are given when we enter into a relationship with Jesus, when we make the decision to follow him. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17 says this, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation, the new self has come. The old is gone and the new is here." You see, the new self loves Jesus more than human approval, more than popularity, more than even physical comfort. You see, the new self chooses Jesus over anything that the world has to offer. And so with this in mind, that Jesus is talking about two different selves, it should change the way that we understand this passage, right? We can actually reread verse 25 as saying this, "What good is it for someone," meaning the old self, "what good is it for the old self to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit the new self?" What Jesus is saying here is that if you live only to fulfill the old self, if you live only to fulfill what the Bible refers to as the desires of the flesh, if you only live to please other people, if you only live for how much stuff you have or how much money you can get, if you only live for the things of this world, then you are actually forfeiting the new self that you have in Christ. Jesus is saying here, you can't have both. You see, denying yourself is an invitation for the new self to deny the old self. It is a command for us to forget about the desires of the old self and instead to choose Jesus over everything. Because the new self looks at the old self and says, no, I choose Jesus over comfort. I choose Jesus over success. I choose Jesus over popularity, over being cool, over being the best on my team. If I can have those things, that's fine and that's great. But if I had to choose, I would choose Jesus over everything. Denying yourself means making the decision to choose Jesus over anything this world has to give us. You can't live fully for both. And Jesus is saying, if you choose to live and be all about self-fulfillment, if you live only for the fulfillment and the comfort and the popularity and everything that the physical life can give you, then what you're doing is you're actually forfeiting the health of your spiritual life. Because what you're serving in your physical life is you are serving no one but yourself. You're saying it's all about me. It's all about self-fulfillment. But denying yourself means removing yourself from the center of your own universe and saying, I am choosing the spiritual life that I have been given in Christ over anything I have in my physical life. I'm grateful for the relationships that I have. I'm grateful for the money that my family has. I'm grateful for the things I have in my physical life. But that is not what I serve. That's not what I love more than anything. To deny yourself means to choose the new self in Christ over the old self of this world. Friends, to deny yourself means to choose fulfillment in your spiritual life over mere comfort, mere temporary comfort that your physical life can give you. To put it simply, to deny yourself means looking at everything the world has to offer you and saying, I choose Jesus over everything.